On Christmas Eve 1914, in the middle of World War I, the impossible happened. The guns fell silent, and for one brief moment, the war stopped. The Western Front was a place of nightmare. For months, men had lived in holes in the ground, surrounded by mud, disease, and the constant shadow of death. The air was thick with the smell of wet wool and wood smoke. Every man was exhausted, longing for a home that felt like a distant dream. Between the lines lay no man's land, a scarred wasteland of craters and rusted barbed wire. On any other night, to step out was a death sentence. But then, through the freezing mist, a sound drifted across the frozen earth. It wasn't the scream of a shell or the rattle of a machine gun. From the German lines, a clear voice rose in song. "Stille Nacht, heilige Nacht!" The British soldiers froze, listening to the familiar melody of Silent Night. The British began to join in. 2 languages, 1 song. The heavy silence of the battlefield was broken by a holy quiet that no one expected. Shouts echoed across the darkness. "You know shoot, we know shoot." Slowly, cautiously, shadows began to rise from the earth. In the middle of no man's land, men who had been trying to kill each other hours before now stood face to face. They were no longer enemies, they were just men. They exchanged what little they had: cigarettes, buttons, and tins of jam. They showed each other crumpled photographs of wives and children waiting back home. Someone produced a ball. In the freezing mud and snow, a makeshift football match began. For those hours, the war existed only in the history books, not on this field. They buried their dead together, side by side, offering prayers in a shared grief that transcended borders. It was a miracle born of common humanity. But as the sun climbed higher, the reality of the world returned. The high commands were furious. The peace could not last. A single shot was fired into the air, a signal that the truce was over. With heavy hearts, the men returned to their separate sides, looking back one last time. The war would drag on for 4 more years, but the memory of that night could never be erased. For one night, enemies remembered they were human. History is full of battles, but only once did peace win by accident. Subscribe for more real stories that sound like movies.